Hello, everyone, and welcome back to ESPN Sports. I'm your host, Madison Reed, and today we're going to go over the biggest cheer competition of the season. But before we get into that, we're going to go over some key points, which are the history of cheerleading, the different types of cheerleading, and the dangers of cheerleading. So flipping right into the first topic, the history of cheerleading. It started at the University of Princeton, and it was an all-male prep group. And then one of the members took it to the University of Michigan, where it really didn't catch on at first until they were on a losing streak in 1883, and then one of the members jumped down, grabbed a megaphone, and led the team to victory. And then that's how the University of Minnesota began cheerleading. In the 1920s, instead of sitting on the sidelines like regular cheerleading, they started inquiring stunts and tumbling to make the performances more exotic and to pump up the crowd more. Female cheerleaders didn't get into the mix until at least 1923, a good 40 years after cheerleading was first invented. But it really didn't catch on until the 1940s. That's when cheerleading became a predominantly female sport and males started to fade out. The first cheerleading society was called NCA, or the National Cheerleaders Association, created by Lawrence Herkison, which he was later named a jump after him called the Herky. Over the next 10 years, 18 more cheerleading foundations was formed, such as UCA, which is Universal Cheerleading Association, Varsity Cheer.co, and the USASF, which is to make sure coaches know the right techniques and everything they are doing so cheerleaders don't get hurt and so everybody can understand and do well together. And All-Star cheerleading did not start becoming a big thing until the 1980s and started becoming more popular than sideline cheerleading in the 1990s. So jumping into our next topic is the different types of cheerleading. High school cheerleading is predominantly sidelines. You see them cheering on basketball, football, and even wrestling. We're also known to do pep rallies and cheer at competitions if your high school allows it, either at state or national level. Usually when it comes to high school cheerleading, there's only two types of teams. Depending on your high school, they may have a third, which is JV and varsity, and then the occasional freshman team. And when it comes to tryouts, it's based on voice production, and stunting and tumbling are not required but highly recommended. And also it's based on how well you can dance and cheer your team on to victory and about your preppiness. Moving on is all-star cheerleading. That's the second type of cheerleading. The USFA states that there are 6 different levels. Level 1 includes back walkovers, preps, and stunts. So usually these teams are minis to juniors, which is about 6 to 12. Then level 2 includes back handsprings and extended feet stunts and prep level 1 legs. Level 2 includes back tucks, single leg twisting to 2 feet, and single leg extended. Level 4, you're allowed to do layouts, double downs, and then twisting up to 1 leg extended level. Level 5 is where you start to twist when you're tumbling, and you can double up to 2 feet or 1.5 up to 1 leg. Level 6 is the highest level of cheerleading you could ever go, which is a double down, a double full, anything with twisting. It doubles everything. Stunting and tumbling is required for all-star cheerleading, as you can see the earlier levels. And cheerleading for all-star takes up most of your schedule. You have practice at least 2 to 3, maybe even 5 times a week for at least 2 to 3 hours a day. That's not including the time you have to go in and spend on your own. Next, we're going to jump into the dangers of cheerleading. Cheerleading has been ranked by Dr. Laura Williams as most dangerous sports for women. Also the 16th for most injuries in a sport. And most common injuries are usually ankle, knee, head, neck, and wrist injuries. As you can see here, here's one of the things. It's pretty intense. Then most injuries come from stunting and tumbling. If one person does not know what they're doing or doesn't ask or not explain well enough, it could lead to someone getting a major injury or possibly even becoming paralyzed or dying. About 30,000 cheerleaders in the last year of 2020 have been injured in some sort of way, and at least 10% of those have been neck injuries. A female cheerleader is 50% of neck, head injuries in the United States suffered by female athletes. Rachel Smith was paralyzed from stunting. She fell out of a stunt and her teammates didn't catch her, and she did make it, but she became paralyzed from the neck down. There are many more cases like hers that did not make it. In Nebraska, about 20 years ago, a high school cheerleader was doing a basket, which is where you throw them and you catch them. And she fell down, came, rotated, and flipped onto her neck, and she died. And it outlawed stunting in Nebraska until about 3 years ago. Over the last 10 minutes, I have talked about the history of cheerleading, the different types of cheerleading, and the dangers of cheerleading. Thank you for listening. Now, after our commercial, we'll jump into the competition. Please stay tuned. I hope you all had a good time.